Hey, I'm John Cannell, and today on Preppy Kitchen, we're making some decadent, indulgent cheesecake brownies. So let's get started. First off, set your oven to 350. This comes together really quick. And now, in a large bowl, we're gonna melt our chocolate chips and butter. 1 cup of semi-sweet chocolate chips, 180 grams, along with 1 cup of butter. If you prefer, you could use some bittersweet chocolate or your favorite chocolate bar, just give it a nice chop. Okay, we also want 1 cup of unsalted room temperature butter, please. The butter is ice cold. It'll kind of like make the microwaving process a little bit more tedious. Today I'm melting this in the microwave because it's really easy, but if you prefer, you could use a double boiler. Just pop a heat-proof bowl over a pot of simmering water, making sure that the bowl does not touch the water. Then just stir occasionally and it'll melt really nicely. It's time to pop this into the microwave. 20-second bursts, stirring in between, and it should be about a total of 2 minutes, but everyone's microwave is a little bit different, so keep an eye on it. My chocolate and butter are beautifully melted. Now we're gonna add 3/4 of a cup or 75 grams of Dutch processed cocoa powder. The Dutch processed cocoa powder will just be a little bit darker and fudgier, and it's better for a brownie, but both will work. Normally I would sift this, but because it's going into like a warm liquid, everything will dissolve. Perfect. Whisk that in slowly so it doesn't form a cocoa cloud to make you cough. Once that's mixed in, we're gonna add our sugar, 1 cup of white or granulated, 200 grams. And by the way, if you like my videos, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. There's 2 new delicious recipes every week. 1 cup of light brown sugar. We're gonna pack it into a measuring cup or just measure out 220 grams. And I'm gonna sprinkle this in like this to break up any of the little boulders. Perfect. Time for 2 eggs. And by the way, if you haven't had a cheesecake brownie, you get the best of both worlds. Delicious, fudgy, like melt in your mouth chocolate brownies with a creamy and light, tangy cheesecake topping. It even looks beautiful too because we're gonna marbleize the top. It's super easy, but very stunning. 1 egg yolk for added richness, so separate the white away. We're gonna amplify the chocolate flavor with 1 tablespoon of coffee. If you're anti-coffee, you could leave it out. It'll just taste a little less chocolatey. And that liquid can be subbed for hot water. And 1 tablespoon of vanilla for some depth of flavor. Scale aside. We're gonna give this a whisk until it is nice and smooth. Comes together really quickly. Lovely. To give this fudgy, delicious chocolate base some structure, we need 1 cup of flour, that's 120 grams. We're using all-purpose. And for a little bit of contrast, 1 teaspoon of salt. So it'll help us taste everything. Now our scale is done. And we're gonna fold this together just until the flour disappears. Just be gentle with the batter. Once you don't see any streaks of flour, this is mixed. We don't wanna overmix it. This should be falling apart, melt in your mouth amazing. We need to reserve 1/2 cup of this batter for the topping. You'll see what happens later, but it looks really pretty. Okay. Set that aside. And we're gonna finish this batter off by sprinkling in 1/3 cup of chocolate chips and just folding them in. A little extra chocolate decadence. We're gonna bake this in a 9-inch square pan, but we need to line it with parchment paper. We're gonna add a little bit of baking spray or butter to the inside of this just to help glue down the parchment paper. So grab parchment paper, snip the edges off, just like that. Transfer your brownie batter into your prepared pan. So fudgy. And we're gonna smooth this out into an even layer with an offset spatula or just a regular one. Move it into the corners. It'll self-level in the oven a bit, but you should have it totally flat to give it a nice start. My brownie base is ready to go into the oven. You have a choice. If you want a super fudgy brownie, 20 minutes. If you like your brownies cakier, closer to 30 minutes. I love a fudgy brownie, so using 20 minutes. In you go. While our brownie bakes, we're gonna make this delicious but super easy cheesecake topping. Grab a big bowl, and you want 2 8-ounce blocks of cream cheese that are room temperature. These are out of their foil packages because they got microwaved, so they're nice and soft now. If your cream cheese is too hard, you're gonna end up with a lumpy cheesecake, which is not fun. Okay, plop that into the bowl. I'm also gonna add half a cup of granulated sugar. For sweetness, that's 100 grams. And a nice pinch of salt for contrast. We're gonna mix this on medium speed until it's smooth and light. I'm using a hand mixer today. If you wanted to use your stand mixer, a paddle attachment will work just fine. It's gonna look a little crazy at first, but then it'll all come together. Two minutes of mixing, and that looks nice and creamy to me. Now we're gonna add 2 large room temperature eggs in, one at a time, to loosen it up and give us some beautiful silky structure. Mix it up on medium. If you're using a stand mixer, make sure you scrape the bowl down regularly. I'm using a hand mixer so I can kind of rake the bowl, do some scraping down as I mix. Egg number 2. Okay, after the second egg gets mixed in, you can see this is so silky and luscious looking. The only thing it's missing is an extra kick of flavor from some vanilla, but I am gonna scrape the bowl down now because so many things have gotten kicked up on the side. Let's mix it all in. Mix it up after you've scraped the bowl down, and once it's nice and smooth, it's time for a tablespoon of vanilla. We're almost ready for our assembly, but don't forget that brownie mix that we set aside. Our reserved brownie batter is gonna get marbleized on top, but it's way too thick now, so we're gonna transfer this to a bowl, heat up 2 to 3 tablespoons of water, and we're gonna add that in, starting with 1 tablespoon until we get the desired consistency. Grab 1 tablespoon of hot water, pour that over your brownie batter, and you can stir it in with a fork or a tiny spatula, whatever you have on hand. It's gonna take a little bit of mixing to start off with. If you're wondering what the consistency should be, fairly similar to the cheesecake batter. Otherwise, it's not gonna marbleize nicely. That was 1 tablespoon. I'm gonna add half a tablespoon and mix that in and see how it goes. That's good. It basically looks like chocolate cheesecake batter now, and it's nice and slack. We're gonna set this aside, and as soon as everything comes out of the oven, we can assemble our cheesecake brownies. Our brownies just came out of the oven. They look glossy, crinkly, and beautiful. It's almost a shame to cover them up, but I'm gonna do it anyways. Pour your cheesecake mixture right over the top. Smooth the batter out into a thin layer using an offset spatula. Once your cheesecake layer is nice and flat, grab a spoon and just dollop brownie batter all over the top. All right, full disclosure, my brownie batter is a little bit more thick than the cheesecake batter still, so I just added a tiny bit more water. No big deal. Grab a skewer, and we're just gonna swirl this to our heart's desire. So pull it in different directions. So you're just gonna swirl and swirl and swirl. You don't wanna make it muddy, but you wanna like extend the chocolate out and distort it so it looks like a marbleized paper. It's so pretty, but really easy to do. Our cheesecake brownies are ready to go into the oven, 350 for 10 minutes. Then we're gonna reduce to 325 and bake an additional 20 to 25 minutes, or until the edges are puffed and just changing color. In you go. Once chilled, remove from the pan. Very nice. Get that paper off, give it a slice, pop it onto a plate, and just like that, it's ready to enjoy. It's the same principle that makes chocolate cream cheese frosting mind-bendingly delicious. The rich, indulgent chocolate with that light and tangy cream cheese is a match made in heaven. I hope you get a chance to make this delicious recipe, and if you like my videos, hit that subscribe button and check out my cheesecake playlist.